Hello, everyone, and welcome back. In our last lecture, we explored charismatic leadership and discussed how effective communication, confidence, and vision can inspire others. Now, we're going to examine what many scholars consider one of the most effective leadership styles in modern organizations: transformational leadership. If charismatic leaders inspire people through their personality, transformational leaders inspire people through their commitment to developing others. That is an important distinction. Transformational leaders don't simply ask, "How can I get people to do their jobs?" Instead, they ask, "How can I help people become the very best version of themselves?" This lesson directly supports two of our course learning outcomes. First, we'll evaluate how transformational leadership promotes ethical policing and strengthens community trust. Second, we'll explore how transformational leadership can improve officer morale, operational efficiency, and public accountability. As you listen today, I encourage you to think about the supervisors, the teachers, the coaches, or mentors who changed your life. Chances are they weren't simply managing you, they were investing in you. And that is transformational leadership. So, what is transformational leadership exactly? Transformational leadership is the process of inspiring people to achieve more than they thought possible while helping them grow personally and professionally. It's about creating lasting change, not just creating policies, changing people, changing culture, and changing organizations. One of the lessons I've learned throughout my career is that organizations improve only when the people improve. Whether it was in the law office, leading in academics, teaching future criminal justice professionals like yourself, or serving on the school board. Lasting success has never come from simply just telling people what to do. The success came from helping people understand the mission, giving them opportunities to grow, and creating an environment where they could succeed. And that is transformational leadership. Researchers describe transformational leadership through four major components, often called the 4 I's. There is idealized influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individualized consideration. Now, I don't want you to worry about memorizing these names today. Instead, I want you to think of them as 4 ways transformational leaders influence people. They lead by example, they inspire a shared vision, they encourage innovation, and they invest in individual people. We're going to look at each one of these areas. The first component is idealized influence. This simply means that leaders model the behavior they expect from others. People watch what leaders do much more closely than what leaders say. One lesson public service has reinforced for me is that credibility is earned through consistency. Whether speaking with students, faculty members, community members, or fellow board members, people notice whether your actions match your words. And this is very true in the criminal justice system. If a supervisor expects professionalism but behaves unprofessionally, credibility disappears. If a supervisor expects accountability but avoids responsibility for mistakes, employees will notice. Transformational leaders understand that leadership begins with them setting the example. So the example we give here is that a sergeant who accepts responsibility for a team's mistake rather than deflecting the blame demonstrates the kind of idealized influence that is going to build loyalty and trust from his officers. So the second component is idealized motivation. Great leaders help people understand why their work matters. Now, this should be easy in criminal justice, right? What are we doing? Why are we there? These leaders, they're going to communicate purpose, they create optimism, they encourage teamwork. I've always believed students perform better when they understand the why of what they're learning, rather than simply being told to memorize the information. That's one reason I connect every lecture in this course to our learning outcomes and to real-world criminal justice. When people understand the mission, they're more motivated to contribute. The same is true for officers, investigators, dispatchers, correctional professionals, and attorneys. People work harder when they believe that they're making a difference. And our work in the criminal justice system is full of examples where people are truly making a difference. The third component is intellectual stimulation. Transformational leaders encourage people to think. They welcome questions, they challenge assumptions, and they create an environment where employees feel comfortable proposing new ideas. One thing I enjoy most about teaching is when students ask thoughtful questions that force all of us, including me, to think differently. A leader isn't threatened by questions. It's the opposite. A leader grows because of the questions asked. The best supervisors don't surround themselves with people who always agree. The best supervisors surround themselves with people willing to think critically and respectfully challenge ideas. That's how organizations improve. The final component is individualized consideration. This means recognizing that every employee is different. Some need encouragement, some need coaching, some need additional training, and some simply need someone who believes in them. If you hear the term equity that is thrown around a lot nowadays, kind of is, having equity, giving people what they need. Looking back over my career, some of those most rewarding moments haven't been promotions or titles. Some of the most rewarding moments have been watching former students become professionals and get the jobs of their dreams, getting the law office jobs of their dreams, working at a police department, or becoming a social worker. Helping someone else succeed is one of the greatest responsibilities and one of the privileges of being a leader. Transformational leaders don't just build organizations. They focus on building people. So why is transformational leadership so effective? Because it improves both organizational performance and employee satisfaction. When an employee feels valued, they become more engaged. When they receive mentorship, they grow professionally. When they're encouraged to contribute ideas, innovation increases. When leaders communicate a clear vision, morale improves. These are exactly the outcomes criminal justice organizations strive to achieve. Higher morale, better communication, stronger teamwork, and greater accountability. And ultimately, this results in better service to the community that you're serving. So let's kind of focus this in criminal justice, right? Imagine a police department is struggling with recruitment, retention, and declining public trust. A transformational leader doesn't simply write new policies. They come in and start asking questions. They want to learn what's causing these issues, right? They want to ask, what challenges are officers in the department facing? What concerns does the community have? How can we improve the training of our officers? How can we better support employee wellness? How do we rebuild trust? These types of conversations create ownership rather than just trying to figure out the problem. Employees who become partners in improving the organization instead of simply following instructions, those are transformational leaders. Now we got another scenario. So, now you've been promoted to police captain. Congratulations. You guys have gotten all sorts of promotions in these lectures. Your division has experienced declining morale for several years. Complaints are increasing by both citizens and employees. Employees don't believe administration listens to them or even cares. So how would a transformational leader respond? They probably would not immediately issue more rules. Instead, they would begin by listening. They would meet with officers. They would meet with community members. They would learn before stepping up and leading. One of the lessons I've learned in both education and public service is that people are far more willing to support change when they believe they've been heard. And many people who have complaints, they understand that it's going to be difficult to fix these complaints. They just want to be heard. So listening is not a weakness of a leader. It is one of a leader's greatest strengths, and it is super important for you guys to have that as leaders. So let's kind of compare leadership styles and connect today's discussion to our course. So transformational leadership helps create ethical organizations because the leaders are going to model integrity. It strengthens community trust because leaders communicate openly and consistently. It improves officer morale by investing in employees rather than simply supervising them. It increases accountability because expectations are clear and leaders hold themselves to the same standards as everyone else. And perhaps most importantly, transformational leadership creates future leaders. And that's one of the reasons it's considered one of the most effective leadership styles in modern criminal justice. So let's connect to our course outcomes. It's always important for us to make sure that we are connecting what we're learning to the course outcomes so you understand why we're doing things, right? So today's lesson supports these by looking broadly at preparing you as a criminal justice supervisor and a manager to lead with clarity, ethics, and intent. We talked about using individualized consideration and inspirational motivation to re-engage a team and boost officer morale. We have talked about modeling integrity and accountability through idealized influence every day, and that strengthens ethical policing. We talked about leading agencies that are transparent, service-oriented, and community-oriented. This is where you build public trust. This is a huge aspect of the business. We talked about creating culture where responsibility is owned and not avoided to increase accountability at every level. And then we talked about applying the 4 I's as a practical framework for building high-performing, resilient teams. So I want you to consider, and you can put these in the comments, reflecting on a leader who changed you. Think about a supervisor, a coach, teacher, mentor, who genuinely helped you become better. Not just more skilled, but more confident, more purposeful, and more capable of leading others. I want you to consider, what did they do? What specific behaviors, habits, or decisions set them apart from others in this role? How did they encourage you? Did they challenge you? Did they listen to you? Did they recognize you, or all of the above? How did it feel to be led by them? And then I want you to consider, how can you apply this? Which of their behaviors can you intentionally model in your own leadership journey starting today? So, the leaders who transform us are rarely rely on authority, and that's been the purpose of this lecture. You want to invest in people. Your officers are waiting for that investment. So, key takeaways. Today we learned that transformational leadership is more about than accomplishing tasks. It's about transforming people. The 4 I's provide a framework for developing stronger organizations. We want you to lead by example, inspire others, encourage innovation, invest in individual people. When leaders do these 4 things consistently, organizations become stronger. When these organizations become stronger, communities benefit, the employees thrive, and new leaders emerge. I like this at the bottom. Leadership is about leaving people better than you found them. As we conclude today's lecture, I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Early in your career, success is often measured by what you accomplish personally. As you become a leader, success begins to look different. It is measured by the success of the people around you. The best leaders I've encountered weren't remembered because they had impressive titles. They were remembered because they helped other people become successful. As you continue developing your own leadership philosophy throughout this course, I encourage you to ask yourself one simple question. When people work with me, will they leave better than they were before? If the answer is yes, you're already practicing transformational leadership. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next lecture.